Supergirl is a popular TV show currently running on the CW based on the DC comic book character Supergirl, also known as Kara. Before the Supergirl show started in 2015, there was a TV series called Smallville, which ran from 2001 through 2011 and was mainly about young Clark Kent before he becomes Superman. And the character of Kara was a part of this show, so today I'll go over the outline and highlights of Kara's role on Smallville. Season 6's 22nd episode, the season finale titled Phantom, has a story about a giant local dam exploding and ends with a cliffhanger. When the story continued in Season 7's premiere episode, titled Bizarro, we see Lex Luthor trapped inside a car underwater on the verge of drowning, but then we see an angel-like young woman underwater coming to save him. We later see him waking up on the shore alive and vaguely seeing the same young woman. At the end of the episode, we see this young woman sitting on top of a water tower and then flying away, revealing that she does indeed have superpowers. Season 7's second episode, titled Kara, shows us Clark and Lois walking through local woods after the big dam explosion. They come across shattered pieces of a spaceship, and Lois is eager to examine it. Suddenly, we see the mysterious girl there, saying she's angry that they're touching her ship. She flies up to the sky with a piece of the ship, which includes the Superman symbol, revealing to viewers that she is from Krypton. We later see her at a local playground looking closely at little boys as if she's looking for one in particular, and Clark suddenly comes over and pulls her away to a spot where it's just the two of them. They fight a little, but then Clark says she can trust him and asks that she tells him what she's trying to do. She says she's looking for a little boy named Kal-El, which is Clark's Kryptonian birth name. Clark is stunned to hear this and takes her to the Kent farm. They talk and she says that both she and Kal-El left Krypton at the same time, but she feels like she just got to Earth and she's the same age as when she left Krypton, yet Clark has grown from being a little baby to a late teenager. They figure out that during their journeys from Krypton to Earth, they were both in suspended animation. But Clark woke up the day his ship landed on Earth, while Kara stayed underwater for 18 years, leaving her in suspended animation until the dam exploded. They also realized that Clark's father Jor-El and Kara's father Zor-El were brothers, which makes Clark and Kara cousins. This all pretty much matched the storyline of the comics at the time, except that in the comics, Kara was not supposed to wake up from suspended animation until Clark had already grown to become Superman. Traditionally, it was supposed to be Superman as an adult alongside Supergirl as a teenager, but fans figured this was something the writers would have to answer somewhere down the line. Anyway, Kara remembers leaving Krypton when there's a civil war against Zod, and Clark reveals to her that the whole planet is now gone. Kara is obviously heartbroken. It's also stated that Jor-El and Zor-El did not get along. Clark goes on to start mentoring Kara, teaching her how to use these powers that took him years to learn. He starts with teaching her super hearing, but Kara had already learned to fly, which Clark still can't do. Kara says it must be because girls mature faster than guys. At one point, Clark goes looking for the pieces of Kara's spaceship where he last saw it, but finds it's been taken away by the government. So Clark and Kara go to the government facility, but discover that the spaceship is being destroyed. But Kara says there's one blue crystal that no Earth machine could scratch, and this crystal contains a lot of Kryptonian information. We later see that someone in the government indeed has the blue crystal. This episode ends with Kara agreeing to live on the Kent farm with Clark under the name Kara Kent. The next episode, titled Fierce, shows us Clark trying to teach Kara to fit in as a small-town farm girl and act low-key. But Kara hears about a local beauty pageant and is interested in joining. She wants to become a star. It also adds that Kara sees Jimmy Olsen and becomes interested in him. As this episode goes on, Clark tries to mentor Kara on how to use heat vision, but Kara feels she doesn't need lessons from him because she still sees herself as being so much older than Clark. At the end of the episode, Kara wins the beauty pageant, but it turns out the girls in competition with her are villains, and they attack Clark with kryptonite. So Kara saves Clark. By the end, Kara comes to agree with Clark that she should try to be low-key, and she gets a job at a local coffee shop. Lex Luthor becomes very suspicious of her because she looks like the girl who saved him from the dam explosion. The next episode, titled Cure, shows us Kara interacting with John Jones the Martian Manhunter And these characters' relationship here is pretty much the opposite as on the current Supergirl show. They already know each other and view each other as enemies, largely based on the fact that John Jones was once friends with Clark's father Jor-El, who did not get along with Kara's father Zor-El. At the end, Kara tells Clark that if he considers John to be a friend, then he'll need to choose between friend and family, and she flies away. Season 7's 6th episode, titled Lara, shows us flashbacks, starting with a flashback of Kara on Krypton just as she was leaving the planet when her father Zor-El sent her away. But then it cuts back to the present and shows us that Kara's in Washington, D.C. looking for the blue crystal. She flirts with a guy so she can steal his wallet and have his access card to get into rooms she shouldn't be allowed in. But she doesn't find the crystal anywhere. She gets captured with kryptonite handcuffs and taken to a room that has special machinery to look into people's memories. We see that Kara actually came to Earth once before this, along with her Kryptonian aunt Lara, who is Clark's mother. They made this trip to Earth because they were scouting locations to send Kal-El just in case the war on Krypton led by Zod got out of control. We wonder why the Kara we've been watching has no memory of her first trip to Earth. Now, as a side note, you should notice that Lara is played by actress Helen Slater, who once played the role of Kara aka Supergirl in a 1984 movie which was set in continuity with the classic Christopher Reeve Superman movies, though Reeve himself was not in this movie. This Supergirl movie was generally speaking poorly received by fans and critics alike, though most agreed Helen Slater did a good portrayal of Supergirl. Anyway, we then see Kara's father Zor-El was also there on Earth and had an argument with Lara that he's always been in love with her and bitter that Lara chose his brother Jor-El over him. At first, Zor-El doesn't realize that Kara is overhearing this conversation, but when he finds out, he uses a crystal to wipe Kara's memory of this whole trip to Earth. Cut back to the present, Clark and Lionel Luthor save Kara from this machine she's strapped in, and when she gets out, all of her previously wiped memories come back to her. At the very end of the episode, we see Clark in the barn with Lana, and we learn that Clark now has the blue crystal, but does not yet want to tell Kara, so Clark will keep it hidden in the barn. Season 7's 8th episode, titled Blue, shows us Clark hearing voices from the blue crystal in his barn, saying his biological mother Lara is in there and wants to be freed. So Clark takes the crystal to the Fortress of Solitude and activates it with another crystal. We then see what is described as a replicant of Lara, kind of like a clone. She has all Lara's memories and intentions, and yet she is not the real Lara. The real one died in Krypton's explosion, and this replicant realizes this. We then see the evil Zor-El also has a replicant released from the blue crystal, but hides from Clark and Lara. Zor-El's replicant goes to the Ken farm to see his daughter Kara, and she tells him she's now aware of his evil, but he assures her he's changed and is better. Lara gives Clark a blue kryptonite ring as a gift, not knowing it'll take Clark's powers away. And the ring gets stuck on Clark's finger. We then find out that Zor-El is still evil and has a plan to kill all of humanity and mate with Lara to create a new generation of Kryptonians on Earth. Kara says she'll fight her father to save the human race, but when they begin to fight, he strangles her and is on the verge of killing her. So to save Kara, Clark smashes the blue crystal and erases the existence of both Lara and Zor-El's replicants. Additionally, this crystal's destruction somehow causes Kara to be transported to the streets of Detroit, Michigan, with no memory or idea of who she is. Viewers then had to wait a few weeks for a new episode of Smallville. We don't see Kara again until Season 7's 12th episode, titled Fracture, when Lois Lane and Lex Luthor go to Michigan to find her. She's been going by the name Linda, working as a waitress, living with a coworker with zero memory of who she really is. They bring her back to Clark, but she still has no memory. Lex tells her that he knows some of the best doctors in the world, and they can help her get her memory back. But of course, Lex's real intentions are to uncover the things he's been suspicious of about her. Then in Season 7's 14th episode, titled Traveler, Clark gets captured by bad guys and held in a kryptonite jail cell. Clark's friend Chloe, who knows Clark's secret, brings Kara to the Fortress of Solitude and asks Jor-El to restore her memory. And so he does. Then Kara goes to use her powers and save Clark. In Season 7's 15th episode, titled Veritas, Brainiac comes to the Ken farm and says he wants Kara to do something to help him, but she refuses. So Brainiac goes off and takes complete control of Lana Lang. He says her condition is completely irreversible by any human, but easily reversible by him, and he will only reverse it if Kara does what he wants. So Kara and Brainiac fly off into the sky, and then into what appears to be a black hole. In Season 7's 18th episode, titled Apocalypse, Clark goes to an alternate timeline which he eventually finds out was created by Zor-El. And then Zor-El sends him to follow up on where Brainiac and Kara are. We see Brainiac has gone back in time to Krypton just as it's on the verge of exploding, and Brainiac is on the verge of killing Kal-El as a baby before his rocket leaves for Earth. I don't understand the reason why Brainiac needed to bring Kara along with him for this mission. Suddenly, Kara and then Clark show up and fight Brainiac. Although they have no powers away from Earth, Kara stabs Brainiac and stops his plan to alter history. Clark and Kara get back to Earth, and we see that in the middle of the night, Kara goes to the kitchen for a midnight snack and suddenly falls to the ground in severe unexplained pain, and that's how the episode ends. In Season 7's 20th episode, the season finale titled Arctic, we see Kara in a plane bullying someone who tried to kill Clark in the previous episode. We then see Clark talking to Kara, saying she's not acting like herself, and she says she doesn't want to hear it and flies away. We later see Kara trying to steal from Lex Luthor. Chloe knows something is wrong with Kara, so she carries a piece of kryptonite with her just in case she needs it to protect herself. And when that happens, we learn that it's not really been Kara this whole episode, but Brainiac shape-shifting to look like Kara. The real Kara is trapped in the Phantom Zone, and that's the last we see of her in Season 7. In Season 8's 8th episode, titled Bloodline, Clark has a crystal that sends him and Lois into the Phantom Zone. There, they find Kara. She says she does know a way out of the Phantom Zone, but would never use it because that would also show other prisoners of the Phantom Zone the way to Earth. But Clark eventually convinces her that Lois doesn't belong here, and so Kara lets the three of them out. There is a story with another prisoner escaping, but I won't get into that here. At the end of the episode, Kara says that while she was in the Phantom Zone, she heard rumors that a part of Krypton called Kandor might have survived the explosion and still exist, and she's going to look for it. She hugs Clark goodbye and flies away into outer space. Now, Season 8's 11th episode was titled Legion and written by DC comic book writer Geoff Johns. Although Kara was not in this episode, some of what we saw in this episode would later become very important for Kara's story. This episode was about the comic characters, the Legion of Superheroes, who are friends of Clark's from the future. All you really need to know is, in the comic books and animations, the Legion members get their powers to fly from their Legion rings and have a bubble they use for time travel. But here, they use the ring for both flight and time travel. We didn't see Kara again until Season 10's 3rd episode, titled Supergirl. In this episode, we see Kara wearing a suit very similar to what Supergirl wears in the comics, just missing the S symbol and a cape. Kara is showing the world her powers and trying to get publicity. When Clark asks why she's doing it, she says Zor-El gave her the mission to fight the darkness that is coming because Zor-El didn't think Clark could handle it. By the darkness, she's referring to comic book villain Darkseid, who had all kinds of references throughout the season. Kara tries to mentor Clark and teach him to fly, but he still can't do it. At the end of the episode, Kara gets a disguise and says she'll be watching, waiting for the darkness to come to Earth. The next and last time we saw Kara was in Season 10's 20th episode, titled Prophecy, which was the next to last ever episode of Smallville. We see Kara and Green Arrow meeting for the first time in a cave, trying to find more information about the darkness. Kara then feels like she's being called by Zor-El to the Fortress of Solitude, and so she goes. There, Zor-El says Clark is now ready to face the darkness and fulfill his destiny, and it's best she does not interfere. For Kara's final scene on the show, we see her hovering outside a window looking at Clark, and reluctantly putting on a Legion ring so she can time travel to the far future and join the Legion. This was intended to help line up the show's story with the comics, so we can imagine Kara will someday come back still as a teenager, while Clark is many years older and already established as Superman. I didn't think this ending was properly explained for viewers of the show. It didn't explain a lot of basic information, like whose Legion ring that was, or how Kara knew anything about the Legion. I read some comics, so I know there are many stories of Supergirl working with the Legion, but I don't know how viewers of the show are supposed to understand this. After Smallville, actress Laura Vandervoort appeared in several other movies and TV shows. I'll note that she was one of the main characters on V, the remake of the 1980s TV series. She also played the lead role in a show called Bitten, in which she played the world's only female werewolf. She was also very active with several ads for PETA, People for Ethical Treatment of Animals. But most notable for this video is that she appeared on several episodes of the current Supergirl show in the role of a villain called Indigo, based on the DC comic book character of the same name. Most fans would have preferred to see Vandervoort play a hero on this show. The most popular fan idea was that she could have played Power Girl, but it was still fun to see Vandervoort be a part of this current Supergirl show, even if she had to play a villain. So anyway, what was my opinion of Kara's role on Smallville? I thought the actress Laura Vandervoort was quite impressive, but the writers could have done better with her character and story. Vandervoort showed a solid and convincing mix of bravery and kindness to make me believe she could be Supergirl. She had strong screen presence for any scene she was in. What was most impressive was that she joined the cast 7 seasons into the show, and yet was able to find chemistry with almost all the show's regular cast members that had already established their characters. I thought she had particularly good chemistry with Tom Welling, who played Clark Kent. I really felt the connection to them as cousins who cared about each other and would mutually take each other's advice very seriously. That said, I did not think the writers focused enough on her and explored the kinds of stories they could have. There was too little done with Kara when you consider they had such a good actress in a role that could be such a relevant part of Clark's story. So that's my opinion, but I'd like to hear some feedback from you viewers. Do you think I summarized Kara's role on Smallville well? Or do you remember other details which you think I should have mentioned here? And do you agree or disagree with my opinions? Please leave it all in the comments below. I'll try to respond as much as I can. And if you enjoy this video and would like to see more of my videos, please hit subscribe. I would love to have you. Thank you.